Welcome to ACM's Vault of Cult. It's been a while. I'm Andy, and I'm back. On this podcast, we chat about cult movies or films that should be cult movies, either forgotten or films that never even done that well to start with. I'm joined this episode by Andrew Norton. You may know him as a DJ, Nightfolk. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been a while. We've been talking about doing this for years.
Oh, yeah, years. I mean, we had different films. I think this podcast was going to be about Tank Girl, and it's morphed into a very interesting episode.
Yeah, because how the podcast started was me picking the movie, something I grew up with loving that didn't do so well. And we still do that occasionally, but more now it's people throwing movies at me. And you've not just gone for one, you've gone for two very different films as well.
Yeah, I mean, we were planning, as you say, we've been planning this for a while. I'm kind of forgotten how we came to that. We planned this like late last year, and of course, you know, we both have lives, and you know, obviously, not obviously, but now we thankfully we're here right now, and. You know, I think one of these films will be, you know, if you know of my work, well, my show Nightfolk, and you know, we're, you know, as it's a, you know, and it's got connections to, I guess, folk horror. You know, one will be quite obvious, the other one not so much. Actually, it's not even obvious in its genre, but I suppose you can say it's not, you know, the one. But anyway, we'll get to that.
Yeah. One thing I was going to say totally different is. The episode, I remember us talking about Tank Girl, but I remember, it's one I still haven't done. We were going to talk about Critters at one point.
Were we? Crikey.
Yeah, which would have been so different. But also, these two movies, I've enjoyed watching them because I hadn't seen them, and they're both quite different to anything I've done on this show before. So the two movies we've gone for are Only Yesterday, the 1991 anime. Mm-hmm. And from 1971, Blood on Satan's Claw, folk horror, often mistaken for a Hammer film. It isn't. So we're gonna I've watched both of these movies, and we're gonna discuss them now. Which one would you like to start with?
Oh, let's go with let's do it alphabetical order. Blood on Satan's Claw.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is play the trailer for that movie, and then we'll be back to discuss it.
The satanic essence of evil wreaks violent and revolting revenge.
But it weren't human, sir. They were fur.
And it was an animal's remains.
They were more like some fiend.
And the evil grows quickly, attacking first the youth of the village and making them the devil's children.
Look. Oh, God, I prayed I'd never see that again. That's what they call the devil's skin.
Doctor, witchcraft is dead and discredited. Are you bent on reviving forgotten horrors? How do we know, sir, what is dead?
The blood on Satan's claws. It was like a horrible disease, highly contagious and deadly dangerous.
Hail, Behemoth, spirit of the dark, take thou my blood, my flesh, my skin, and walk. Holy Behemoth, father of my life, speak now, come now, rise now from the forest, from the
On Satan's Claw stars Patrick Wymark as the judge who tries Satan, and Linda Hayden as Angel Blake, daughter of Satan.
Thou stole my master's skin. I shall pay with thine.
I think thou could be saved.
how to tear the devil's heel.
Oh, telltale beast, I'll set the dogs on me. Of course I didn't. Art thou ready to give thy skin tonight? Art thou ready?
The blood on Satan's claw.
The blood on Satan's claw. Firstly, when did you first see this movie?
I believe it was either 2010 or early 10s. You know, I know I was living in Cardiff. It's very interesting because this is kind of like goes back to when the term folk horror came about. Because this was after the Mark Gatiss documentary. Have you ever seen The History of Horror, Andy?
I haven't. No. That's I know of it, and I get confused. I thought I had. Someone asked me this before, but I've seen the A to Z of horror, the Clive Barker series.
Oh, right. But anyway, Mark Gatiss, he made a documentary, History of Horror. And in the Homelands episode, which is basically about British horror, he starts talking to what he refers to as quote unquote folk horror, and he picks 3 Pacific films, which find the general Wicker Man and indeed The Blood on Satan's Claw, which will be known as the Unholy Trilogy. And I believe this is the first time I've heard of it, and which is interesting because it was actually an interesting time because I've always been a huge fan of Wicker Man, and the interesting thing about that, there's always been sort of a culture around Wicker Man, at least in my circles, because it's definitely around because I was, if anyone knows my show Night Folk, if you come from there you would know, we play a lot of like weird folk music, avant folk music, and in the noughties there was like a revival of that, especially from interestingly enough American artists, and the Wicker Man was a huge influence, and so there's always been that kind of I guess culture, and plus there was always also a I want to say crate digging, but it's also to do with film, because there's a lot a lot of that time. There was like people going through old like cinema, old TV, specifically in the UK late 60s and the 70s. So there was always that culture, but I guess with this history of horror, it finally gave those type of films, a group, a name, and so back to The Blood on Satan's Claw. I don't think I've heard of it beforehand. I think I've seen pictures of it, and I've seen some of the stills are iconic.
Yeah,
iconic, and but I finally got this copy right here.
That's the DVD copy you've got there, yeah.
Yeah, which is called Blood on Satan's Claw, not The Blood on Satan's Claw, and I watched it with friends, and it was I loved it, absolutely loved it, and it's I watched it it's a film I watched revisit a few times in the last 10 years. It's last nearly 15 years now actually, and but it's interesting going back to it because I have to admit, I haven't watched it for quite a while, and I'm kind of like, and I've kind of been haven't really, I still love like the whole folk horror, I guess, culture, as it were. For example, I read Weird Walk. So this thing has kind of grew, and a genre has formed around folk horror. But it's interesting to go back to it.
Yeah, would you say that this is one of the things that sparked your love for folk horror?
No, No, it's like the one when it's like the first time it had a name.
Yeah.
Well, it's like the first film to be associated with the term folk horror. So folk horror has a weird history, or has a weird kind of convoluted history. It's a nightmare researching this.
Yeah. One of the things I heard so I watched the movie, then some of the special features, and one of the interviews, it says that obviously back in 1971, the term wasn't widely used, but in a few interviews about the movie, the writer did refer to it as a folk horror.
Yeah, he says that. I think what happened, because like there were a trade paper used the term to talk about the film. I mean, the folk horror has been used before in like some obscure ways. It's not like the first time the term ever been used, but it was used with to describe the film. It's like, oh, this is the study in folk horror. And then the film was released. It got like middling reviews, like it didn't do well in the box office, and subsequently kind of like got ignored through. Well, not really forgotten, because in terms of the other two in the Unholy Trinity, Witchfinder General was actually a commercial success. Of course, it got Vincent Price in it, and the Wicker Man, as we all know, it's became this cult phenomenon.
Yeah.
Cult phenomenon, and but Blood and Stain and Glory, it wasn't really until the history of horror it became this huge, cult hit.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because it sort of got average reviews, and as you say, it was forgotten. But when it got its release in America, they wanted to put it as the B movie, but they reversed it and put it as the main film on the double bills. But then I suppose that would be late night drive-in type, in the way that Night of the Living Dead eventually made money. So I think it might not have been sort of so on the radar, so to speak, but I think a lot of people who saw it when it came out might have stuck with them, because it's certainly unique for the time anyway. And to be honest, it's still an 18 certificate. Some of it's quite brutal.
Oh yeah, especially one notorious scene.
Yeah. Should we? I want people to watch this film. We could do the odd spoiler, but the plot's quite bonkers, really, isn't it?
Yes. So should I describe it? The film starts like you got a lone ploughman. He's just plowing around. He's like is it his sister or his lover in the distance? Saying hello, hello, and then he unearths like a fiend, a creature under the earth. He reports this to the judge, who's in the village. Doesn't believe him. He believes it's just human remains or animal remains. But I'm trying to remember. Is it the judge's son or God?
It's I don't know if it's his son, but it's
George kind of.
I took it as somebody who worked for him, but
So he brings a young lady who's they're not fond of.
Yeah.
Tell her to sleep in the attic, but a terror arrives in the night, and something ghastly happens to her.
Yeah.
And she's sent away with a claw.
Yeah.
Short time later, the kids play in the farm where the fiend was found, and they also find a claw. Later, they go a bit mad, and should I stop there? And
and then it becomes the youngsters of the village. It goes a bit, which just came after Children of the Corn in a way.
Yeah,
led by, or appears to be led by
Angel.
Angel, played by Linda Hayden. Which most of the iconic imagery, the posters, and that sort of thing, she's featured.
Yeah. With her like eyebrows, and I forgot to say the main point of the story, and what the name refers to, and the kids start to have things get a bit hairy on their skin.
Yeah.
Well, Satan's skin comes on, appeared on their skin, and then pursued a story of ritual and sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for a film over 50 years old, as we said before, brutal, very dark, but very entertaining film. It's one of the... It's well, I can't remember how long the version I looked for, how I watched last, but looking online, there's a 93-minute version and a 97-minute version.
Interesting, I just don't know that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see there's any different versions. It might just be a misprint one of the places I saw it, or I don't know.
Be, I don't know, because I haven't come across like different kind of edits.
No,
it's not like The Wicker Man, which has like a few edits throughout the years.
Yeah, or Blade Runner, where there's about 80.
Oh yeah. You know, 80 kind of like director's cut. Yeah. But I'm not aware of that.
Oh. But
I'm just going to check my DVD now.
well, yeah. What does the DVD say?
Oh, for goodness sake! No, you don't have the.
Don't have the time on it.
No,
That's mad.
It's like
That's quite an old DVD you've got there. That's a rare one as well, by the looks of things. I said 93 and 97, but the Blu-ray actually says 96 minutes on it.
oh, cracky.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe that's just
It's just
another eerie thing about the film. It's a very interesting plot, and especially for its time, original. You know, I mean, this has influenced a lot since. But I actually want to quickly talk about the cast. We mentioned the main female lead, who I believe was a model before this.
Yeah, she's appeared in like a few kind of like I guess like horror films. Not many. I have to admit, not many I've seen. You know, I mean, but she's. I didn't. Yeah, she was a model. Yeah.
Well, I think she went on to do more horrors and kind of the fashion at the time, sex comedies, that sort of thing. But really, you know, she's known for this movie.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Letterboxd now. I mean, you know, the first one that comes out is Bond Sacred Claw, and the second one is the documentary about folk horror, which I was actually watching a bit of when on the way here. You know, Woodland's Darkened Days.
And that's on Shudder at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, I watched it. Well, I have to be honest, I haven't watched it all the way through. It's like 193 minutes long.
It is, yeah. So it's on my list for being that length. And then the rest of the cast, I mean, the judge is played by, is it Robert Hines Simmons?
Yes, he's you might recognise him from Which Final General.
Yes, he's been in a lot of stuff as well.
Yeah.
But in the research I found they wanted a bigger name, but the budget was low. And then the director and writer were just so pleased with his performance that I think he's great in it.
I think he's fantastic. He's so entertaining. He's like he kind of chews the scenery, and right at the end, I know I have to admit, the ending I always found, even the first time I saw this, and me and my friends always used to joke about the ending. It kind of goes a bit dark, frankly, at the end. But
that's very true. He does a bit. And it is that sudden ending that is sort of often happened a lot back then, you know. Just I was like, oh, it's finished.
Yeah. But the thing is, I remember when I first saw it. We saw it like we put it on in the living room, and we all really liked it. But we always thought the plot was okay. So he kind of like goes there. It's like the judge just thinks, oh dear, there's evil coming about, and I better go around. It's just like, you go, think, you know, but he says to them, things are going to get worse. People are going to die, but I'll be back when I'm ready. But he kind of fucks off for a bit, reads some books, comes back, and his conclusion is like, oh, all you need to kill this thing is just a massive sword. Yeah. It's just like, what, did you have to research? Just fucking kill a massive sword.
But it's also one of those movies that, if you watch with a group of people, maybe a few beers, there's plenty you can laugh at in it. But then if you watch it on your own series, it's a really good film as well. It's got that too.
I think the thing is, it's got some campiness to it. Even though I mean, it's kind of like, you know, no offense to the director, and you know, he wanted to, you know, the point, you know, I'll go into the cultural context of this, but it does have that, you know, somebody, late 60s, early 70s charm to it.
Yeah.
Even down to the gratuitous sex, and sometimes it does go. There's one notorious scene which they actually mention in the history of horror, which they say goes a little too far.
Yeah.
But
do you think that scene is seen as worse because I don't want to go into too far, but the girl involved was known for playing a young character in Doctor Who? Is that the same at all? I think at the time people might have thought, "Oh my God, it's her as well."
Yeah. I guess that might be that's actually a very good point.
I mean, it is brutal as well.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of like how I would describe it. It's kind of like that notorious scene. It's a ritual scene.
Yeah.
It's a ritual scene, but it's got kind of like that element of Straw Dogs as well. Would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and it's kind of like it's very much off the time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And I think it's it's very grisly, that scene.
As I say, this film is still an 18 certificate and should be, in my opinion.
Yes, of course, absolutely. Not to sound like conservative or anything, but it's,
a lot of films from this era. I think Witchfinder General's gone down to 15 now.
That's which is interesting.
Yeah,
because
I'm not 100%. I think it has.
Yeah, if that's true, that's a very that is a very grisly film.
Yeah,
that is kind of like that is very violent.
Yeah,
brutal. But the interest. But anyway,
I'm just going to sort of mention the cast there. It's was it Wendy Padbury who was in Doctor Who? Is that her name? She was one of the what do they call them? Like psychic characters. I'm not that into Doctor Who. Companions, that's what they call them. In the late 60s.
I'm not really sure because I'm not so clued up on.
But she's really good in it. It's one of her first roles after Doctor Who, I believe. And there's another actress you may know where I know her from, famous TV actress who I've seen in old 60s horror film The Witches. But do you know the actress I mean? Who
The Witches?
It's an old 60s, but she's really well known for a British sitcom.
Is she one of the younger actors?
One of the younger actresses, yeah. Basically, it's Betty from Some Mothers Do Heaven, Frank Spencer's wife. You're not aware of this? You're not?
I'm not.
No.
No.
One of the younger girl, the one who I don't go to. She becomes more involved towards the end. I think she's about fourth or fifth.
She. I know who you mean. Yeah, the one they capture. Mm-hmm. The one they capture, yes, and the one who does the rites.
Yeah.
Yes. I did not know that.
Did not know that. I was like, it's Betty. No wonder she married Frank. She was so messed up.
Yeah, and she does look like a Betty.
Yeah.
But
Cheryl Durice, I think her name is.
Yeah, but the thing is, the only one other kind of cast member I do recognise, other than the two mains, is the little ginger fella. Who have you ever seen Psychomania?
I am where I haven't. No.
Yeah. He appears. A lot of them appears in like these small kind of like weird, folk horror adjacent films from that era. Yes, but there's like the little ginger fella I recognise.
There's a
little ginger fella.
One of the villagers who's drinking, he's a bit drunk. He does have a line or two. Was Onslow from Keeping Up Appearances?
Really?
Yeah, he did it very briefly. Towards the end, he's
he's part of the mob.
Kind of the end, he stood there drinking, and he's actually cast as it does say drinking villager on the end credit on Letterboxd. Sorry. So it's lots. If you're a bit of a British film or comedy nerd, there's a few things to spot. When you think that these, I suppose Some Others Do Heaven wasn't long after this, but Keep Up Appearances was 20 years or so after. And I think he was in he might have been in a soap or something as well. He was a well-known sort of character actor. But I thought the cast were all really good. Or mostly, sometimes with these, because it was a low-budget film. It was made for like $82,000 which even then wasn't.
Yeah, that's wow. Amazing what you can do with a field on the church.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean, one of the things the director said was when there's the reveal at the end, he thought they showed too much. But I think they were pushed to do that. Like there were certain things. The film company was Tygon, wasn't it? Who made it? Who done this one in general? Well, they had sort of certain rules. Like you needed blood or nudity every 15 minutes, and so I think they were.
Actually, talk about Witchfinder General. I think it was this film was actually was reading this. Firstly, this film was meant to be like an anthology with The Devil's Skin being just one section of a whole anthology, and then they extended it to be the film. And it was actually meant to be set in the Victorian age, not the 17th century. But thanks to the success of Witchfinder General, they made him set it in the same period.
Yeah.
And make it more associated with witchcraft and whatnot, which I always find very interesting because I always considered the three unholy trinity to be quite separate. That's what made folk horror interesting, because they're all like three different films, three unique films, but actually one informed the other, more in a commercial sense, but it's still very interesting.
Yeah. Can I just go on a bit of a side tangent? We never got to talk about this on the podcast, but The Witchfinder General was one of a few horror films. I don't even know if it is a horror film, but anyway, a few 18 certificate brutal films that my dad not only let me watch as a kid, but got me to watch. And the reason for it, my dad grew up in the village of Kersey, where they filmed a lot of the stuff from Witchfinder General. And as a kid, so 20 years after, I remember watching this film like it hadn't changed, and I was like, "That's right near my dad's allotment. That's right near the." And it was and I saw it 2 years ago at the Dead and Subbreed Festival in Subbreed Horror Festival with my then girlfriend, and during the film I was nudging her like, "My dad's allotment was there," and I'm like, "They say you don't turn into your dad, but." Maybe through horror I have. I just wanted to mention that because I'll never get this on a podcast again. A really good film.
That's a woman's burning to death, which is like your dad's
yeah. But also that would be a great double bill. Would be those two movies.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I'm sure there's like triple bills of those three. They must be. I mean, I'm surprised like King Street haven't had that idea yet.
Yeah, maybe if they're listening.
Oh yeah, James. Oh well, I mean, James doesn't own it, but he's got access to the projector. Well, I mean, the guy I forget his name who owns King Street.
Who runs it? The manager's Dan.
Dan.
Yeah.
Dan. We haven't met yet, but come on.
But so. We've gone over the cast, the music because of.
Oh yes, but carry on.
Yeah, no, just you're a fan of the music in this movie.
I adore the score to this. It's so. I mean, well, the aesthetics of this film are so gorgeous. I mean, for a horror film, I can talk about the cinematography as well. I think the cinematography is really, really cool. Really cool, just like you think pops out every time I see it. But the music is I just try and remember who did. I should know this by heart because but the score is so unnerving and so wistful and so kind of, it's so beautifully eerie, that kind of like you got that low end, that and crikey, I feel like Peter Kay in Peter Kay doing theme songs.
It doesn't sound a lot of horror. The Hammer films of the times have had the generic soundtrack, whereas this sounds, it's definitely its own thing.
Yeah, it's like kind of like a really kind of like. Not folksy, but kind of like almost kind of like got this kind of like I'm trying to think of the word, natural, fural kind of not fural. What's the word I'm thinking of? Pastoral. That's it. Kind of got this like a pastoral kind of quality to it, kind of like this kind of well, it sounds like it belongs to the country, countryside. It's like a real kind of like aesthetic to it, a kind of this like uncanny kind of feeling to it, which I love, and it fits so well, especially in the opening scenes when the skull is unearthed with the eyeball, and I think it's absolutely. I know. I mean, it's kind of like I think I have played it on Night Folk independently. Mac Wilkinson.
Yeah.
Mac Wilkinson, and I think Trunk who did a re-release of the soundtrack.
Yeah, it did have a vinyl re-release.
I think it was Trunk. Trunk might. It's like one of those record labels, one of these kind of like Finally Keepers like record labels, but it's like I think it's I mean, it's not as iconic as, say, The Wicker Man.
No.
The Wicker Man is like the Wicker Man soundtrack is something else entirely. But it's just like, I'm really glad you highlighted the soundtrack to this because
was this before The Wicker Man?
Yes, this was about a few years. I think Wicker Man was 1973.
Yes, it is 71, wasn't it?
73. It's had its 50th anniversary last year.
Of course, yeah. So this was 71, so a few years before. But, they've got similarities, but, Wicker Man is set in the then modern times, and, so they still work together, that triple bill that we're going to hint for. But I'm just going to mention as well that this is the definition of cult classic. This is, a lot of people love this film, a lot of people haven't even heard of it, and some don't like it. If you look at the scores, on IMDb it's only got 6.4, which was lower than I thought it would be.
I was thinking about this last night because I didn't see the IMDb score. I saw the Letterboxd one, which is about 3.3.
3.3, yeah.
3.3, which is I was when I first saw it, I was kind of like, huh? But then I thought, I think is that kind of common with horror though?
That is, yeah.
Yeah,
unless it's one of the The Exorcist or something.
Yeah, but. Yeah, because like a horror, just like you might have people saying, "Oh, it's not scary."
Yeah, because they pay no attention to the film, and then say it's not scary.
I mean, that's the problem. I guess it's just like the story with horror. I guess, unfortunately, it gets snubbed at the Ox. Not treated as serious as it should, even though a lot of the very best horror is like. Actually, some of the best films ever made. Wicker Man, I would include that. Yeah. Include in that, definitely.
But it has got 73% on Rotten Tomatoes. A page I'm not usually a big fan of, but that is the critics mainly, isn't it? Rotten Tomatoes?
Yeah. It's quite unreliable because, how many people actually reviewed it, because it's quite an old film.
Yeah.
And,
I suppose with reissues, I mean... Which I've mentioned, got the Blu-ray, it came out, I don't know when I'll release... when this will be out, but in March this year, on 88 Films have done a really nice special edition of it.
Yeah.
Packed with interviews, there's 2 commentaries, archived footage, loads. And one of the reasons I hurried along, let's do this podcast finally, was that had got released and I wanted to buy it, even though I hadn't seen it, it looked cool. And they've also re-released Witchfinder General, which I'll get my paws on, or my claw on.
It does look absolutely beautiful. I mean, I saw it at HMV, but once I have £30, I'll definitely look to invest in that.
£30?
Yeah, how much did you get yours?
16. You might have seen the 4K one's probably £30.
£16?
£16.99 just the Blu-ray. So the 4K one's probably £16.99. Yeah. He saw him light up there.
Yeah. But yes, but as you say, this is like. I would say this is a definition of a cult classic.
Yeah.
Because interestingly enough, because this is without this, I think it's more kind of like a cult classic because of the term folk horror is the one that kind of like quote unquote birthed the term. Well, the reason why folk horror has become popularised.
Yeah.
Popularised, and it's the reason that folk horror eventually became a genre.
Yeah.
Because and obviously you got like then then those are films became popularised. If you popularised thanks to it, I mean, crikey, who heard of Robin Redbreast before this? But more significantly, people, like the director of Midsummer, just like, this is a folk. I want to make a folk horror film, which is kind of like a term or something that didn't. I mean, The Witch. Well, I guess, I think he would have still probably made the film. Who knows? But at least, just like, I just did a Wicker Man, but it's like, but that's so it. But the thing, I was thinking about this, and the nice thing is, it's kind of appropriate how it was discovered. Well, because it's like, it is kind of like the most folk horror. What I mean by that is, it's like a film that's kind of like a few people saw, people kind of forgot, and no one's really heard of. But then it was unearthed. Like the fiend in the field.
I saw where you were going there.
And it's kind of appropriate, which I kind of like about, and that's what I love about folk horror, because then a few films kind of got rediscovered, like a few evils got rediscovered, and interestingly enough, actually, I was going to talk about this. When I first saw this came at the same time as this actually coincided. I don't know if it was coincident or conscious. Same year, a film called Kill List came out, and of course, Kill List is probably what started this whole kind of folk horror revival. Would you say?
I can't. I haven't seen Kill List.
Really? Oh, it's a rather brilliant film. I think it's absolutely wonderful isn't the right word, but
top notch.
It's brilliant. It's of course, it's Ben Wheatley.
Yeah.
He's kind of like became quite significant in this kind of like, he made a few quote unquote folk horrors. Field in England is a particular favourite.
What was the one a few years ago? Night something.
Oh, crikey! Yeah.
What was it called? Something Earth. Night Earth. I don't know.
Night Earth. I know. Underneath the Earth. I'm going to look now. Yeah. It's like
because that was like.
I saw it in the cinema. I really like that one. It's the one he made during lockdown.
Yeah, it was very folk horror-y.
Kind of.
But obviously, he'll always be remembered for Megan 2.
Meg 2.
So
I still have not seen that.
It's fun. You wouldn't think it's Ben Wheatley. So Paycheck.
Well, it's his top film now. But
it's
In the Earth. Yeah.
In the Earth. Yeah. Sorry, the Meg 2, not Megan 2.0, which is coming out next year. But it's nearly half time on the show, so we've got to wrap. Talk about this film up. But the two questions I like to ask: do you think the movie still holds up?
Yes, I do. I think it's still a rather excellent film. You notice like I have the letterbox. I did, I rated it as a 9. I don't think it's as a film itself. I think it's still like there are folk horrors I like more. Obviously, The Wicker Man and Pender's Fen, Stone Tapes. I think those are really the prime examples of a few of the prime examples of that time. But I think Bone Sailor is significant, and it's a really. I think it's terrific. Yeah. It's still, it's kind of like, it kind of walked where the Wicker Man ran, if that makes sense. Yes, I think I would still, if you're into Wicker Man, want to learn more about folk horror, it's definitely, if you're for wider horror, absolutely. So. Yeah, I think it's sold up. Good.
And you've answered my next question. The final question is always ratings out of 5. So you said 9 out of 10.
Ooh, it's closer to a 4 or 5. It's 5. Yeah.
You can do 0.5s, but we'll say 5. I like that. So it's a first time watch for me. Thank you very much for kicking me up the backside to watch this. For me, it's a solid 4 and a good 4. I think it's, if I'd have seen it when I was either younger or when it came out, it'd be a 5-star film for me. It's just, there's just a few little things that doesn't give it a 5, but it's one I will definitely watch again. I've enjoyed researching the film, which I recommend. I recommend watch it, and you'll be like, what? And you'll want to read up on it if you're a film fan.
Yeah.
And it's also one of those films that I'd really like to show this to a film fan of maybe 18 to 20, a young film fan, see their thoughts. Because even though it was made 10 years before I was born, I grew up watching a lot of stuff this era. So hence I recognise some of the sitcom actors and that sort of thing. I'd like to see whether a young viewer they might just laugh at it, they might think it's dated, or it might just really fuck them up.
Yeah.
So if you are a young listener and you want to listen to this film, you want to risk either one of those, let us know, get on the socials. But I want to, let us know what your thoughts are on this film, and if you haven't heard of it, definitely check it out. In a minute we'll be back to talk about a completely different movie, Only Yesterday, and this is the trailer for that movie.
You wouldn't even meet that guy. 27 is too old to be picky.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Recall the good old days. It's mainly about fashions or pop stars. For them, 1966 was the high point of their youth. But for me, it was just 5th grade.
You can't be serious. Mother! Can't trust boys, even if you have a crush on them. Huh? Oh, look! The crows are flying away!
Could you ever see yourself living in a place like this?
Hey, farm girl!
Perhaps my 5th grade self is trying to tell me to find a new way to fly.
Only Yesterday, a movie that I watched only yesterday.
Same here.
Aha. So I watched it for the first time. When did you first see this movie?
I can't actually kind of gaslit myself because we'll talk about. Because apparently this is the most controversial Studio Ghibli film, and you'll never guess why if you haven't seen it. Because I was trying to think, because I've seen most Studio Ghibli films, but as okay, I'll tell the story now because we might as well. Because I was watching it only yesterday, and. Usually because I'm a snob. I'm a snob. I like to see films authentically, even though I'm not. Because I don't think the Japanese version, the authentic version have you read it, whatever. But anyway, so I was watching it, and then the title comes up. It's all in English. Oh, so hang on, and it said voice featuring the voice or starring Daisy Ridley, Dev Patel, and I thought it was, but I was thinking, wait a minute, how old were they when Yesterday came out? And of course, this is a new 2016 dub when it was finally released in America. Because it turns out it wasn't released in America until 2016 because of a controversy, which we'll get onto later as we go into the film.
Yeah, I will read the back of the Blu-ray, the reason why it's a PG once we get onto it. It made me giggle like a child.
Yeah, same here. It's like it's such a ridiculous reason.
Yeah.
But I was starting me to think because I've always since early noughties I've been a huge Studio Ghibli fan. and I've seen as I said, I've seen pretty much all of them except for one or two, maybe, and I'm sure I've seen this. Well, I must have saw it before, because before, you know, I kind of got to know the story. Or did I see this? Was it actually the first time I saw it was on Netflix? So I'm kind of like gaslighting myself at the moment. It's like, yes, you know, now I'm like in this existential crisis of when I first saw it.
This is one as well that I'm a casual fan. I saw Spirited Away like when it first came out, and seen several since, and gone back and watched some before. But this is one I've not heard of until you mentioned it. And then when I looked up what big hit it was in Japan, that quite surprised me. But if it didn't get that American release, it might have slipped under the radar here as well.
Yeah.
And that might be why I've not heard of it. And then all the way I watched the dub version, I recognised those voices. And then weirdly, I thought the male lead was Jude Law at first.
I did. I watched the Japanese cover.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you've...
Yeah, I fixed that straight away.
But yeah, so you first saw it on Netflix. You probably saw it fairly recently.
Yeah, about. When did they release those? About 2018, 2019, kind of like.
Yeah, a few years, a couple of years.
Yeah. So I think I might have seen it before because I recognise it. They might have. I'm just trying to think. Did they release it in the UK? Try to remember now.
I think they did. Yeah.
Oh, it might
have been a late night Channel 4 type job as well. You might have seen it then.
Yeah. You know, of course, Film 4. I think they still always show Studio Ghibli. The Cat Returns a lot for some reason.
Yeah.
You know, that's a favourite of theirs, weirdly. But yeah, it's I have seen it before. Yeah. You know, but I'm just kind of like conflicted when.
Yeah. So did you want to do a brief summary of the plot?
Okay, of course. So we follow a 27-year-old office worker called Kiko, who's kind of bored of her life, kind of like, you know, Monday job, and decides to go to her sister's family's farm for the week. It's like safflower, or is it what they were picking?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, what is that for? Oh, God, I can't.
We'll say a plant.
Plant. Yeah. But during the journey, she starts reminiscing about her past life, particularly, you know, her 10-year-old self. She's literally bringing her 10-year-old self with her during this trip. And so the story is her relating her current life as a 27-year-old woman at a crossroads in her life, and to how she was when she's 10 years old. You know, circumstances of her 10-year-old self. You know, it's kind of like a. Yeah, like, would you? Is that satisfying?
Yeah. It's one of those that I don't think you can talk about the plot a lot.
Yeah,
because it's like it's flashbacks and little bits of life that seem relevant to what's happening.
Yeah,
it's her going to visit part of her extended family, isn't it?
Yeah, it's her sister's family. Yeah,
and then meeting a few people and then showing relationships from when she was a child.
Yeah.
Was she 10? I thought she was 5.
Oh, she's 10.
She's 10. I think it might say 5 in the dub version. It's interesting.
Yeah. She's very intelligent 5-year-old.
Yeah. But anyway, it might be just me remembering it wrong. But it's one of those 2 hours which flew by as well.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realise it was that long when I put it on. And then when it finished, I was like, oh, okay. But I suppose there's a lot to cover, but not much plot, if that makes sense. And it's very...
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff did actually remind me of my own childhood, weirdly, because I wasn't a little girl. And she's still discovering the memories again, is what I liked. Because when I think back to when I was a child, I don't really remember that much. But then sometimes things do spark something, and that's what this film does,
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of fun, interesting characters in it, and it shows relationships with her parents. It doesn't show much of friendships as an adult.
No, because you only see her in the farm setting.
Yeah, and
she's only when she only interacts with.
She's on the phone to her sister, isn't she? Or
her sister, and of course, you interacted with members of that family, but the relationships are very interesting.
Yeah,
and progressively become more interesting. And but it's like it's like an interesting one, because I was actually, when we decided to do this one, I'm trying to remember how we came to this one only yesterday, because it's quite an odd one to pick in the Studio Ghibli canon. It's not to say it's not a good film. It's a fabulous film. We haven't mentioned it. This is the Takahata. Am I pronouncing that Takahata?
For all I know, you're pronouncing it right.
Yeah, it's like I'm terrible at pronunciation, I have to admit. Even though he's like one of my favourite animators who ever lived. But it's the one he directed. But it's kind of interesting because as you know, Studio Ghibli. If you think of a Studio Ghibli film, you think of the fantastical, the fantasy. Cat buses, moving castles, and so forth. This is such a grounded film, with few fantastical elements to it. They're very there are fantastical elements to it, including one beautiful sequence. One of my favourite animated sequences. But they're so few and far between. They're quite like jarring when they happen, because it's interesting. Because I was thinking about watching it, because recently, you saw Perfect Days.
Yeah.
Recently, and I'm also want to mention Koreeda's Monster, which was has been released recently in UK cinemas, and come to King Street in a few weeks.
He's come to Ipswich soon.
I've seen it twice. I loved it that much.
If you're a local, that is.
Yes. Well, local, but I just wanted to promote that. I think it's and King Street as well, but it's kind of like made me think of these kind of like humanist films.
Yeah.
They're very kind of like about raw human emotions, kind of like slow moving, kind of like meditative movies about the human condition, human life, and I found it very, it's an odd Studio Ghibli film, because actually, just an anecdote, I was like DJing a couple of days ago, and a friend of mine, I mentioned I was doing this podcast. And I mentioned I was doing it yesterday, and he said, "Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, I found it a bit boring."
What?
Yeah, and he's just like, "Oh, I like the more fantasy stuff, and it's but I think." I had no regret, and even I had like a reservation about doing this one, because, not that, again, I adore the film, but it's just like, it's so kind of like left field in terms of Studio Ghibli.
It's just, I saw it as a drama with a few dreamlike sequences.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Which I liked, and maybe, if people, like a lot of films, if you go into it expecting something and you get something else, you don't think you're not able to enjoy it for what it is. This is why I get annoyed when movies are promoted wrong. Do you know what I mean? And people go in expecting something, and then they. Whereas with this, I actually went in. I done a little bit of research. I just watched a trailer or something, and I got what I was not expecting but hoping for. I thought it would be a nice little drama, slice of life is a phrase I like to use, character study in a way as well. And I think it's great, because just because something's animated doesn't mean it has to be out there fantasy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think this was a huge hit in Japan, biggest film that year.
Yeah.
I think probably one of the first ones. Probably got more of an adult audience than
yeah.
Because I imagine a youngster might find it a bit boring, but anybody, an adult, late teen, should find it fascinating, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I was there personally. I mean, it might be age. As I get older, I get more kind of sappy and sentimental in my age. In my age, hence I'd probably go give this a give this a higher rating than Blood and Saint and Claw.
Save it for the end.
Yeah, I will. Wait. I've been saying this, like, I get big. I think I've been made obvious my feelings about the film.
Yeah.
But I think I found it really moving. Really kind of like a really beautiful film, and not to mention like the animation is. It's by one of the greatest who ever lived, in my opinion. Is absolutely, the whole film is absolutely beautiful, and the animation is like wonderful. Especially one scene which actually, you can't see this on the podcast, but it's kind of like features on the back here on the special. I got the collection special edition. For like having a nice copy, but when she, of course, this is like a. Goes through the flashbacks go through kind of like one controversial thing we'll go into, but it's kind of like different kind of like stages of not adolescence, when she was 10. Colour it's a common age, but when she first falls in love, because apparently like one of the boys like her, like the picture likes her. And he makes this kind of like compliment to her, and then you have this whole. It's quite a famous sequence. You probably some might recognise if you know Ghibli. She kind of like literally walks up into the air and starts flying, and it's like this really beautiful sequence, which it's still probably one of my favourite sequences. One of my favourite sequences in animation. I would go that far. I think it's such a beautiful kind of. Sequence, and plus I think, and it works so well because again, it's such a grounded film, and when that happens, it kind of like elevates it as well. But it's just, but emotionally, as you say, the plot is kind of like not much happens, and it work. That's why it works because it kind of meditates, kind of go, you just go into these characters, these relationships, these kind of feelings as well. So I think it's a truly wonderful, wonderful piece.
Yeah. Can I announce why it's a PG now, and then we?
Oh, cool. Yeah. I think we've been teasing this a long time.
Word for word, it says PG. References to puberty. Yes.
Outrageous, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's like, apparently I was like while I was researching it, one kind of like article says it's like the most controversial Studio Ghibli film. Why? Because it talks about menstruation. Yeah. And it's just like it's just like kids grow up, it happens.
Yeah.
It's such a but apparently what happened, this didn't get like a full release until 2016 in the US. This is why I'm kind of like gaslighting myself when I first saw this, because apparently I was trying to confirm it. If anyone's out there in like the socials who can confirm this, please let us know, because I was trying to, But apparently, what happened, like, Studio Ghibli in the past, they were distributed by Disney. Mm-hmm. Disney, so if they distribute films and they give them 10% towards production costs, but they wouldn't release, release Only Yesterday because it talks about menstruation, which I find so backwards and bizarre.
And it's still, I don't want to say it, I'm going to say it. It's kind of still like that. I mean, do you remember the controversy? Was it last year or the year before with Turning Red? it was a Disney Pixar.
Yeah.
And there's some subtle references in the very and then it is probably the Donald Trump lot kicking off.
If I getting a Christian.
Yeah, and I'm like, it's a fact of life. Kids know what's going on. And one thing I really liked about Andee yesterday was there's the kids' reaction to it, the boys' reaction. That reminds me of one of the many things of being in primary school, the stupidity, because but they act like that because they're not told about it.
Yeah.
So they see it, and that shows it really well in this. This for a film over 30 years old.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is, like, the girl who starts having a period, she accepts it. She just, like, dismisses the boys. It's like, oh, they're stupid. They are, like, of course, she, our main protagonist, who's actually at this, there's a sequence in it when, during this, like, sequence, she gets a cold. And therefore, her mum writes her a note saying she must miss PE. But she doesn't want to miss PE. Not because she likes PE, because everyone will think she's on her period. That's why she's missing PE. And because the other girl, she's missing PE because of periods. And periods. But it's like, it's the thing is, what's frustrating about it, as you say, it's really done in a very emotionally mature way.
Yeah.
As you expect from Studio Ghibli. As you expect, it's like but and it's kind of, and it's just the fact, it's just like the fact Disney made that decision. Well, apparently, I want to say, apparently they made that decision. If that's true, that's just like,
and to me, it sounds like in 2016 they finally watched it. And then, oh right, and then they made Turning Red. They put something in because they realised that it's fact of life and it is something relatable for kids. It's something that should be,
Yeah. I mean,
not like necessarily to see this as a kids' film, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's if you're like a young adult, it's like how I would definitely recommend. I'll recommend this to anyone really. Anyone really. Yeah. But God, it's like I'm just thinking about the pineapple sequence, which is of course this is like the whole point of that sequence is like this was like it's 1967, am I correct? Or 69?
67? 66 they say.
Yeah, 66.
Yeah.
So, when the pop revival came about, like new kind of pop band, guitar bands were coming out, and they talk about that. But there's this delightful kind of like sequence where because the economy was booming, so people can buy expensive fruits, and they bring home her father brings home a pineapple, and they have this whole sequence about this pineapple, and it's like they're like amazed by this thing, and then he actually eats it, and it's just like this wonderful scene where they just just like find it disgusting, and she's trying to pretend to like it.
And they announced that banana's still the king of fruits.
Yeah, which is I would agree.
Yeah, I agree. Bananas are cool.
Yeah, I mean bananas are the easiest ones to eat,
and you can do practical jokes with the skins afterwards.
Hilariously,
yeah. So yeah, the parents are good characters in this, I think. There is a scene which is another reason I think it would be a PG other than the puberty, where as a child she gets slapped.
Yeah, that's because that's a really quite potent scene, because it starts off. That's a scene where they're talking about the daughter of the mother who's the stain. He's demanding sneakers. She wants 5,000 yen for a pair of Pumas because as the kids are everyone, all the kids have Pumas.
Yeah,
and which kind of triggers like our main character. I should just start saying her name. Teiko to reminisce when she was actually kind of like that, kind of like being the spoilt brat, and I think it's over a handbag. And she starts acting out, and and during the she was, and it kind of collides her with her not going to go to a meal with her family. And they leave without her, but she said she doesn't want to leave, but she leaves without shoes on, which leads makes her father to slap her, and it's quite striking. Well, no pun intended, but it's because you see the father. He's like the classic strict father, kind of quiet, stoic. You rarely see him really. Yeah. Like the mother's kind of like open, chatty, and
he's got there's a scene as well where she's told she can't do anything, and he just says no. Just before that, I believe.
Yeah, he's like the patriarch of the house.
Yeah,
and he's like anything he says goes. He's like, she towards the end of the film. Well, I think this is second to last kind of like flashback sequence. She almost becomes an actor.
Yeah.
She gets involved. She starts to have a small part in the elementary play, but it goes down so well that someone from university wants her to star in their play. But when they're kind of like the rest of the family's kind of excited, but then the father kind of shuts that down.
Yeah, but he doesn't. Well, it doesn't show him to be a horrible man or anything.
No, he's like I would. That's why it's so kind of striking. He's like the classic kind of like patriarchal, kind of like stoic, old-fashioned kind of father figure.
Yeah, but very human as well.
Very human, as all these characters are.
Yeah.
Characters are. Actually, I was reading one Letterboxd review. He said, like, one Letterboxd review just said, one of the few kind of like Studio Ghibli when the grandma is his arsehole. Yeah. Which I found really funny.
Yeah.
Even though she only starts saying one snarky remark. But it's kind of like, she does point out it's like the first and only time he's ever done it, and you do sense a sense of regret from the father.
I definitely was going to say he probably hurt him more than her.
Yeah,
and the fact that she mentions he never done it again.
Yeah, it's
so that they both learn from it. Really.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's a human reaction. Quite even though it's terrible, seeing a child get hurt, it's always quite distressing. Any context. For me, at least, it's like something you saw me during Anatomy of the Fall, where like that dog does a bit too good a job.
I looked away at that, and the dog should have got an Oscar.
I agree with you. But you
got to think as well, in 1966, 67, kids were getting slapped all the time.
Yeah.
So the fact that this dad only done it once shows, another character mentions they were slapped more, don't they?
Yeah. He's just like, he does it all the time,
Yeah. I'm going to mention again the music. You're a music fan. What do you think of the scores for this?
It's kind of like the thing is, you mentioned the music, so it's really beautiful. But it's kind of like everything kind of, it's like one of these films where everything kind of like merges and washes over you, if that makes sense. Because everything kind of blends. It's kind of like we saw Days of Heaven the other day, and it's kind of a similar situation where Days of Heaven doesn't really have much of a plot, different plot to this obviously, but it's a love triangle, everything Days of Heaven, you probably, but everything kind of like visuals kind of wash it, the music score kind of blends it. I had a similar experience here. And but Studio Ghibli, is it the same person who usually does this? Because actually I don't know this. I need to go back to the drawing board here. Yeah. What did you think?
I when I was watching it, like I say, I enjoyed visually and the music. I thought was beautiful, but the music hasn't actually stuck with me. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm just trying. It's
not like when you're watching Star Wars and stuff and you come out humming the theme. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. But I always love Studio Ghibli soundtracks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not actually not by.
It's a different.
Yeah, it's different. Katihushi, who did Taro Ushi. That's on a few things on my watch list he's done.
So he's done a few, but not one the more well known.
Yeah. He's like, he's not like Oh God, my mind's gone blank. I'm probably Letterboxd has replaced my brain.
Oh no. If you are on Letterboxd, by the way, there is an HCM Small Cult page. I don't know to deactivate it. I'm just using my own one. So just find Andee Martin 81.
And if you want to find me, I'm Night Folk Radio.
Night Folk Radio, yes.
Yeah, you can
if you find one of us, you can find the other ones in Who.
Yeah, and you can read all my witty reviews, including for the Sydney Sweeney Nun movie, Immaculate. Which
I haven't read a review for that yet. I'm going to see that later.
Well, today, are you?
Yeah, after I'm going to go and see.
Oh yeah, because we're seeing together.
What are we seeing? That's just
Late Night with the Devil.
No, with the Devil. So that future goal hit. Right.
We'll have to see that. Oh yeah, it's usually Joe Hayashi who does the score, but this is someone different. Okay. Oh, I didn't know this. He did the soundtrack to Fireworks. Oh, anyway, we're going off course. Anyway.
While Andrew talks to himself, no. So that's the two questions. Do you think this is the easiest question ever? Do you think this movie still holds up?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not. I mean, if you're looking for like your typical Studio Ghibli or typical anime, I guess if. Actually, now I say that, if you're into, I think if you're into, like, say, more modern stuff, say, I'm looking at a poster of Your Name at the moment, or kind of like, say, well, more recently, Susan, even though these are quite fantastical films, both by the same director, I just realised as I say that, I'm going to say, War for Children as well. So, but these are kind of like moving kind of human films as well. Yeah. I think you're going to get a lot out of this, and but if you're, I'm just saying, if you're if you're really into Studio Ghibli, especially into anime, I would definitely give this a try, because it might be. The thing is also because the reason I mentioned, even though it's a German director, Perfect Days, more recently Perfect Day Monster, it might be a gateway to those kind of films as well. Say if you're into anime, it might get, further Japanese kind of like a humanist kind of like films as well. So I definitely think this is, well, and plus this is like one of the best from one of the greats.
Yeah. I mean, I'd say as well, this is, you get those people who are like, oh, I don't like anime, it's silly, it's all dragons and craziness. I'd show this to them. Someone who's not into anime, because it's more of a drama and it's very human and it's about growing up. It's a coming of age film in many ways.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the few animes I would show my parents. I think people of an older generation who haven't grown up watching them, whatever, probably wouldn't give many of these films a chance. Or the second they get silly, it's too silly. Whereas with this, that doesn't happen. The dream sequences in it, you'd get in a film like Being There, the Peter Sellers film, that sort of dreamlike. So, yes, I think it's one of it could be a gateway film for people into anime. Yeah,
and I want to also say, if you're, I mean, as I keep on saying, this is one of the greats. He's one of my favourite filmmakers of all time. But I would also highly, highly recommend. I guess his most popular film is again, this is Takahata. Most popular film is Grave of the Fireflies, which I think is one. Yeah. Well, if I do a list of her greatest films of all time, that is one that would definitely go very, very high.
That's got a ridiculous 4.4 on Letterboxd, which is
deservedly so. Yeah. Deservedly so, and of course Princess Kaguya. Sorry if I mispronounced that. Which is sadly was his last film before he passed away. Which Princess Kaguya, which was nominated for Best Animated Feature over 10 years ago, and lost to Big Hero 6, which is I'm still hurt by that today.
Big Hero 6 is kind of cool though.
Yeah, but it's not as good. And plus, Song of the Sea was also nominated that year, so it was a strong, two masterpieces, in my opinion. But
quite ironic that a film that's clearly sort of influenced ripping off anime won the Oscar that year. Anyway, don't worry about it.
Yeah, but anyway, we're under the bridge anyway.
I'm not angry Bill Murray didn't win for Lost in Translation. No, I'm not. I'm over it. I'm fine. So, most difficult question ever. Ratings out of 5 for this.
Let me think. 5.
Okay, I'm giving it 4.2, which is very high.
4.2, yeah, that's a good. That's
very high.
That's very solid.
I'd say probably. I mean, you're in my flat. I have got loads of film stuff all around the flat and an Elmo and stuff. But I have got a Your Name poster up, which is one of my favourite animes, if not my favourite. And this is, I'd say this is up there with that. I'd say I don't like it quite as much, but Your Name I think is. But it's there. It's very clever.
Yeah. Your Name is a very good choice. I'm trying to think of my favourite. I mean, it's probably Neon Genesis, the end of Evangelion. But that extends to it's basically my favourite anime is Neon Genesis Evangelion. But crikey, because I was actually thinking about this on the way here. What is my favourite Studio Ghibli?
Oh, yeah.
That is a very good question, because here's the funny thing. I don't have an answer for you, because the ones I love, and they're all like there's like 2 levels. Actually 3 levels. The masterpieces, the 2 or 3 ones I don't really like. Tales of Earthsea, Ocean Waves, Poppy Hill. The ones I've seen, I'm kind of and the 3rd level, the one I'm scared of, the 3D one, I have not seen. I'm too scared to see. I can't even think of the name right now, but it looks ugly, and I don't want to see it. Because I know it'll hurt me.
What was 12-year-old Andrew's favourite anime?
12-year-old Andrew's favourite anime.
I'll tell you mine first.
Go for it.
Devilman.
Oh, that's a good one.
Fucking can't get it anywhere now. It might be on streaming, but it's not the Blu-ray.
They remade it.
I've seen the remake. Yeah, I mean the 80s one.
Yeah. I can't. That's a good question. Have you seen the remake?
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
Yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, but
also, I haven't seen the original for so long. It'd probably be rubbish now. But I loved it because it was just violent and demons and
Yeah. Actually, I think mine would be kind of like violent as well, because, interestingly enough, with my relationship with anime, it probably was either Ghost of the Shell or Akira, because it was like we're talking like mid-90s, and was one that actually this was nice. I was one of those 10-year-olds. I think they famously showed like Akira late at 11 p.m. on Channel 4, and I think I stayed up that night to watch it. So the stuff I liked was kind of like the more kind of violent stuff. Actually, I got a story for you. I was, but I wasn't really into the Dragon Ball Z, even though I actually, weirdly enough, saying not really, I love Chrono Trigger. Of course, terrible at Japanese pronunciation. Unfortunately, the guy who created Dragon Ball sadly passed away, and also Chrono Trigger. The artful Chrono Trigger, I should say. And I love JRPGs, which goes hand in hand. I was a huge Final Fantasy VII fan, and still am, and I still. Gutted I don't have a PS5, so I can't play the new. But anyway, I bought. I found there used to be. Where was that? Where the there used to be a shopping centre near where the Wolvers used to be across the road.
Oh yeah, I mean,
yeah. My mum used to do a kind of like an antique kind of stall.
Yeah,
stall there like in the weekends, and I think this is how I possibly got into anime. I had 2 brothers who were really into animation. Well, my late brother Mike he wanted to be an animator, and he adored. So we watched a lot of animation when growing up. This is how, and we had there was this guy who ran a sci-fi stall.
Okay.
And he sold kind of the manga tapes. This is why I was when I was growing up, I used to call the film mangas.
Yeah, a lot of us did. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were distributed by a company called Manga. Everyone knows manga. But now it's like different. Now it's like only anime is one, and there's a few others. But one day I bought Dark City.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, but my dad found it. He pressed play, and he was grabbing, and he walked down the stairs with the tape Dark City and just started screaming, "This is a porno! This is a porno!"
Oh, wow.
But no, well, it's kind of sort of happening. Actually, I actually remembered the story. Last year, so I bought Dark City again just to see. I hadn't seen it since. I haven't seen it since. So maybe we should do a bottle cut of like.
Did you get told off, majorly?
Well, being screamed at like I was watching porn, but. But that's my. But the thing, you know, Studio Ghibli. I didn't. Studio Ghibli. Actually, the thing with. I actually discovered Studio Ghibli. The first one I discovered was Spirited Away.
Yeah.
Spirited Away, which was shown on then called Digital Film Theatre, now King Street Theatre. And I remember watching it in the afternoon, loved it so much, and then I begged some friends to go see it again, and we watched it again that evening. And hence a kind of like a now this love affair. You know, now I use Studio Ghibli. It's kind of sort of like how people feel about Tarantino's Scorsese. That's how
I saw that. I think it was UGC then, what's now Cineworld, on an afternoon. I'd probably been in college, so it's good that it actually got released in 2 cinemas in Ipswich.
Oh, was it released there as well?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
I know it was, because I know I saw it in Ipswich Film Theatre.
Yeah. Right, we should probably wrap things up. But just while we're on the anime theme, can you anime or folk horror? One we haven't mentioned today, and I'll end the show on the trailer for another film that people should watch. I'll put it on the spot.
Anime or folk horror?
Yeah.
Anime or folk horror? Oh god, you have put me on the spot. Actually, I'm going to mention, because I forgot to bring the Blu-ray, because I was tempted just to give you a anime in case we do on one again. But I completely forgot to do it again. Have you ever seen Serial Experiment Lane?
Seen what? Sorry.
Serial Experiment Lane.
Never even heard of it.
Excellent.
I'll look that up. We'll play the trailer for that.
Yeah. Does it have a trailer? I don't know, but
if it doesn't, I'm going to show the trailer. For looking around my flat, I'm going to pick another film. Tremors 4, right? So if I can't get the trailer for that, it's Tremors 4.
Oh,
Andrew, thank you very much for listening. Find him on the socials through Nightfolk.
Yeah, the best place to find me is Nightfolk in the Afternoon. Just type Nightfolk in the Afternoon on Instagram. You can also find the archives. Haven't done a show in nearly a year now, but hopefully that will change very soon. But follow me on Instagram. But you can find the archives of previous Nightfolks. They're a bit out of date. But if you want to listen to a bit of Nightfolk, you can find me on Mixcloud as well. So just type Nightfolk in the Afternoon or Nightfolk on Mixcloud, and follow me on Instagram for any updates going forth, and hopefully that'll be soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Andy Martin. You can find me at the Brewers Arms in Ipswich, or in Cineworld, or at King Street Cinema in Ipswich on my days off. Thank you very much.
Hello, Navi.
Hello, Lane.
It was suicide. She jumped off a building last week. The teacher told everyone.
But if she's dead, then we shouldn't be getting any emails from her.
Hello? How are you? I am only. You left my body. You see, by sending you an email, I can use the system to explain to you that I am still alive.
Let's all love Lane.
You know, Lane, in the real world, people are connected somehow. That's how societies are created. You can live and communicate in both worlds. Nothing to be afraid of.
I'm not scared. Not really. We were partying, Lane, out in Siberia last night, where we saw a girl who looked exactly like you. But last night, I was... Who in the hell are you? I am me. I'm the only me, right? And there isn't any other me
get it confused with the real world.
You're wrong. The border between the two isn't so clear.
You don't have to remain a wretched human being forever. Mankind has finally created an exit.